Namaskar students, welcome back to another lecture in the series of few lectures on the topic magnetic field in the matter. So if I introduce whatever we have learned in this series of lecture, so I have started from the very beginning from the magnetic material, and I have introduced two type of material in the beginning of the lecture. So one was the paramagnetic material and another was the diamagnetic material. And another class of material I have just introduced, that was ferromagnetic material, but I have not discussed in detail because I left there and I told you that I will discuss later, because in order to discuss the ferromagnetic material we require some basic knowledge. If you recall, so when I discussed the paramagnetic material and ferromagnetic material, so I have started from the very beginning that if you have a matter and each matter is composed of a atom, and atom is composed of nucleus and electron. That means in each and every matter of the universe we have a atom, and then we have a electron which is revolving around the nucleus, and again the electron is spinning its own axis when it is making a revolution around the nucleus. So I have solved several numerical problems based on magnetic field due to circular current, magnetic field due to spinning sphere, and then I have introduced magnetic dipole moment due to circular current, square current, then magnetic dipole moment due to spinning sphere. So those problems demonstrate that, and we can apply in order to understand the paramagnetic or ferromagnetic or diamagnetic materials. So we have learned that circular loop can be assumed as a magnetic dipole, a tiny magnetic dipole. So in case of matter, if you see, each matter is composed of an atom, and within an atom around the nucleus electron is revolving. So because of the revolution of electron around the nucleus, that is giving a tiny current, and this current is circular in nature. Okay, so that means the circular current which is revolving in a matter, flowing in a matter, that can be assumed as a magnetic dipole moment due to circular current loop. Similarly, electron is also spinning at the axis. Then we have learned that spinning sphere can be assumed at a dipole moment. So that means electron spin also give a type of magnetic dipole moment. Okay, so there are basically two kind of dipole we can observe in any matter. One dipole may be due to the circular motion of the electron, circular current. Another is due to the spin of the electron. So both kind of dipoles are present into a matter. So in beginning of the lecture I have introduced that paramagnetic materials, basically that involves the spin of the electron phenomena. Means if you have a matter is composed of a atom of such elements which have a one valence electron in their outer orbit, means odd number of electron. Basically for the case of paramagnetic material, generally one electron is there in the outer orbit. So this odd number of electron in the outer orbit gives the dipole moment, and if such type of dipole moments are present in any material, so that give the paramagnetic characteristics to that particular matter. Okay, and similarly I have introduced that if you have a circular current is there, and some certain kind of materials are there. When you apply the magnetic field within the matter, then the circular current which is flowing within the matter due to the that is known as atomic current, due to the circulation of electron around the nucleus, that current oppose the external magnetic field within the matter. And in order to oppose the external magnetic field, because of the Lenz law, the circular current flow opposite to the direction of magnetic field. That means there is a change in magnetic dipole moment. The change in magnetization. The change in magnetization happens, but in opposite direction in case of dimagnetic material. So when you apply magnetic field in a dimagnetic material, means some certain kind of materials are there, when magnetization occurs opposite to the direction of applied magnetic field, because the circulating current flow opposite to the direction of applied magnetic field. So such type of materials are known as the, I have introduced, that is diamagnetic material. But the both phenomena are quite complex, and I have not gone into the detail, because in order to learn in more deep, you have to go to the several theory. Okay, Langevin theory of diamagnetism is there, and so many theories are there. Quantum mechanical aspects have been also has to be also included, but I have not gone into the detail because that is not in our scope, and that is beyond of my scope. Means we are learning the electromagnetic theory, so that is part of solid state physics. Maybe when you will go in higher class, you will learn. So that is why I am not touching those parts here. So now I come back to the another part, that is ferromagnetic material, which I have left there, and then in this topic I will introduce BH curve and hysteresis loop. Okay. So here I have written BH curve. So another type of curve is also known there, that is known as the MH curve. I have not written. I will introduce. So if you go to the ferromagnetic material, so ferromagnetic materials have a magnetic dipole moment even in a zero applied field. In order to understand this statement, if you go to the paramagnetic material, what happens in case of paramagnetic material, when you apply the magnetic field, so whatever magnetic dipole moments are present in paramagnetic material, they are basically spin dipole moment. So though when you apply magnetic field, so they try to align in the direction of applied magnetic field. Okay, because when you have not applied any external magnetic field, their distribution of the dipole moment is random. So random distribution of dipole moment, that gives the net magnetization 0 in absence of magnetic field in paramagnetic material. But when you apply magnetic field, all the dipole get aligned into the direction of magnetic field, and you get net magnetization. Okay, but if you remove the magnetic field in case of paramagnetic material, because of the thermal energy or because of the thermal fluctuation, all the aligned dipole, they again regain their original position. Again their random distribution will occur, and then net magnetization will be equal to 0. But these things doesn't happen in case of ferromagnetic material. Remember, in case of ferromagnetic material, even when you have not applied any magnetic field, even though you may get some magnetic moment, some magnetization into the material. So such kind of materials are known as the ferromagnetic material. So that is a very little difference between the ferromagnetic and paramagnetic material. And we have learned in case of ferromagnetic material, in case of diamagnetic and paramagnetic material, that magnetization is directly proportional to applied external magnetic field. That's what we have learned. And we have removed proportional, then we have got a constant that is known as the chi m, and this chi m, that what we have introduced, that is known as the magnetic susceptibility of that particular material. And this definition is valid, or I can say that is for the linear medium. If you see here, if you plot a curve between m and h, you will get a straight line. Whether it is if it is positive, value of chi is positive, then this is known as the paramagnetic material. And if the straight line, it means positive slope, that is known as the paramagnetic material. And if we get negative straight line with a negative slope, so that will give you a diamagnetic material. That I have defined there. But this happens for the case of, and that is why these are known as a linear medium. तो paramagnetic and diamagnetic materials are known as a linear medium also, a linear material. But this doesn't happen in case of ferromagnetic material. So and this equation is not valid for the ferromagnetic material. Means in case of ferromagnetic material, this M is not directly proportional to H. So this linear curve is not there, but there is non-linear curve is there. So that is why I have written this is a non-linear medium. So ferromagnetic material are non-linear medium. And we have learned in case of paramagnetic material, in order to sustain, in order to achieve the magnetization, we apply external magnetic field. Till magnetic field you have applied, we get some magnetization. If you remove the magnetic field, we don't get any magnetization. But in case of ferromagnetic material, we don't require such magnetic field, okay, and even magnetization can be sustained even without external magnetic field, okay. And if you try to understand what is the basic difference between paramagnetic and ferromagnetic material, then both have different from each other in the sense that the interaction between the nearby dipoles, okay. In case of paramagnetic material, all the dipoles have been randomly oriented. That is why we have not got any net magnetization. But in case of ferromagnetic material, the dipole, each magnetic dipole, they like to be aligned. They prefer to align, they prefer to stay in the same direction of as their neighbors are, okay. It means they will try to align in the same direction of their neighboring dipole direction, okay. So that is the peculiar property of the ferromagnetic material. And this, each dipole like to align in the direction of neighboring dipole, and this phenomena, this process occurs due to the interaction between the two neighboring dipoles, okay. And this alignment of the dipole in the direction of their neighboring dipole, this is a quantum mechanical phenomena, and this happens only up to a certain range, only up to a certain depth, up to a certain thickness, okay. And such range is known as the magnetic domains. So therefore we can say that ferromagnetic materials are made of the domains, okay, and each domains contains millions of dipole. Remember, each domain contains millions of dipole, and in each domain all the dipoles are aligned in the same direction. Remember, in each domain all the millions of dipoles are aligned in the same direction, because as I discuss here, in case of ferromagnetic material, the dipoles are prefer to align in the direction where their neighboring dipoles have aligned, okay. So they look what their neighbors are doing, okay. If neighbors will align in the direction of, let us say, north side, so another dipole will also align in the north side. If neighbor will move into south, let us say in south direction, the another neighboring dipole that also will align in the south direction. Means whatever neighboring dipole will do, that each dipole will try to do that, okay. So I have just given some examples. So this alignment of the dipole happens, that we know, that because of the torque. So when we apply in the magnetic material, when we apply magnetic field, what happen? We know, because of the random alignment of the dipole within the material, say in presence of external magnetic field, they feel a torque. So we can write this, and I have given a separate, I think, lecture on the torque. N is equal to M cross B, where M is the magnetic dipole moments and B is the magnetic field. And if you write this, MB sine theta normal unit vector, that means torque will always be perpendicular to the M and B, till, it means this torque will act on the dipole till all the dipole get aligned into the direction of magnetic field, because mb sin theta. So n will be equal to, means this n will have non-zero value till there is some theta value between the m and b. When theta becomes equal to 0, then n become equal to 0, means when all the dipole get aligned into the direction of magnetic field, then this torque will be equal to 0, and that is the basically what the magnetic field does, and that what does the torque within the matter. Okay. And for detail on the how torque align, and I have solved several numerical problems and theory part in my previous lectures. Those who are interested, though, they can go visit in those pages. And another thing is that, as I discuss here, the neighboring dipole interact with each other. So each dipoles have some energy. So I have discussed again, given a separate lecture of the energy of the dipole, that U is equal to minus m dot b, where m is the magnetic dipole moment and b is the magnetic field. And this magnetic field may be due to the neighboring dipole or maybe the external magnetic field. Okay. So I have solved another numerical problem based on the interaction energy of two dipoles. So using this formula, so we have solved that. We have found out that if you find out the interaction energy between two dipoles, so we can write that mu 0.4 pi 1 upon r cube m1 m2 minus 3 m1 dot r unit vector plus m2 dot r unit vector. If we have two dipole m1 and m2, they are aligned in a random direction, theta 1 and theta 2. This is what happened in case of paramagnetic material. Now, because of if the interaction energy, depending upon the applied energy and applied external magnetic field and interaction energy, so if their interaction energy is less, so they will try to, if the interaction energy of the dipole, let us say this energy is less than the thermal fluctuation, thermal energy, that is kBt, then their random orientation will be there. And if the interaction energy is greater than the thermal energy, then we have learned that, and I have given several configurations based on this problem and possibility, that we have learned that these dipole will try to align in the same direction along the line joining both dipole. That what we have learned. And then we have find out that the minimum energy, means that is the stable configuration, that minimum energy is achieved by the dipole when they are aligned in the same direction, okay, along line joining them. So for again, I will request to the audience, please visit again by this lecture, interaction energy of the two dipole. There I have given there are several possibilities how the dipoles will get aligned. Okay. So now let us come to the ferromagnetic material. As I discuss here, the ferromagnetic materials are made of the domains. In each domain contains millions of dipoles. So let us say I have a ferromagnetic material. This ferromagnetic material is made of larger domain. Let us say this is one domain, this is another domain, this is another domain, and this is another domain. And if you see that in each domain contain billions of dipole, and they give the net magnetization. So if you see in this dipole, net magnetization is along this direction, and in this dipole, net magnetization is along this direction. It means within this magnetic domain, all the billions of dipoles are aligned in this direction, and within this dipole, all the billions of dipoles are aligned in this direction. Within this, all the dipoles are aligned in this direction. Okay. And the separation between the magnetic domains means how one can distinguish the magnetic domains from one magnetic domain to another. That is based on their alignment. If you see up to this length, all the dipoles are aligned in this direction. But if as the direction of magnetization of the dipole changes, so magnetic domain, we define new magnetic domain. So that is how the magnetic domains are separated from each other. So if you measure the net magnetization of a ferromagnetic material, so you may get very less magnetization or maybe sometimes zero magnetization in absence of magnetic field. Okay. But if you get net magnetization in absence of magnetic field, that net magnetization will be always less than the individual magnetization of a particular domain. Okay. And if you apply the magnetic field, external magnetic field in the ferromagnetic material, so what will happen? That phenomena I will discuss. So all dipole will try to align into the direction of magnetic field. So that obviously then if you see here, so that is obviously these ferromagnetic materials are not a linear material, linear medium. Okay. So keeping all these basics point, that is interaction energy between the dipoles, torque on the dipoles. Okay, then I will move forward to understand what will happen in case of ferromagnetic material when you measure the magnetization with respect to the applied external magnetic field or magnetic field vector B with respect to applied external magnetic field. Okay, so this, if you go back to the again previous lectures, I have introduced the concept of magnetic field vector H. So in some reference book, this H is called as a magnetic field intensity vector, and this is simply called as a magnetic field vector. But I will prefer that you call simply magnetic field vector B or magnetic field vector H, because in Griffith they have clearly distinguished whether you call magnetic field intensity vector H or magnetic field vector B. There is no problem in that also. So I have developed the relation that is H is equal to B vector upon mu 0 minus magnetization vector n. Okay, or you can write simply B vector is equal to mu 0 H plus m, where H is the magnetic field vector H and m is the magnetization of the material and B is the magnetic field vector B. It means if we have a magnetized material, if we apply external magnetic field, let us say H vector, okay, then if you see we can plot two curves. One curve may be between the H and B, that is between B and H. We apply the H and we try to measure the B, so that is known as the BH curve. And another thing is that we apply the external magnetic field H and we measure the M, that is magnetization of the material, so that is known as the MH curve. So there are two type of curve or graph may be plotted in case of ferromagnetic material. One is known as the BH curve and another is known as the MH curve. Okay, so I will try to explain both what is the MH curve and what is the BH curve, and demonstrate that maybe in different textbook, maybe you have read in NCERT or maybe in 10+2 your 10+2 classes, maybe you have not gone into the deep that what is the difference between MH curve and BH curve, and whether this MH curve and BH curve are same or different. But here I will, in this lecture I will clearly demonstrate what is the difference between MH curve and BH curve and what are other consequences of the MH curve and BH curve. So here I have taken a simple example of a ferromagnetic material and try to measure the MH curve, means magnetization versus applied magnetic field curve. So on x-axis I have taken H, external applied magnetic field, and y-axis I have taken magnetization vector. And I have taken this material as simple as possible. So let us assume that this material is composed of 4 domains only, but in actual material contains large number of domains. But for the simplicity, just to elaborate you, just to demonstrate you, I have taken only 4 domains. Okay, if you see here, magnetic field vector is along this direction. So this is the direction of magnetic field vector. This is the magnetic field vector direction. Okay, and if you see the domains, so this domain, this magnetic domain and this magnetic domain and these 4 magnetic domains are there. In this domain, magnetization is along this direction, and this magnetization along this direction, and this magnetization along this direction, and this magnetization along this direction. So when you have not applied any external magnetic field, okay, then if you see net magnetization, when H is equal to 0, the net magnetization is basically equal to 0, because maybe each domains have equal magnitude and direction. Direction is different but magnitude is equal, so the net magnetization is equal to 0 when H is equal to 0. But when you apply external magnetic field, okay, so what will happen? The growth of the volume of the favorably oriented domains will happen. Means if you see out of these 4 domains, magnetization in this domain, magnetization along this, and in this magnetization along this, and in this along this, and in this along this. In actual magnetic field we have applied along this direction, along this direction, along this direction. Okay, so if you see out of 4, which is more favorably oriented along the field direction, so this is not obviously, and obviously if you see out of these 4, this domain this domain that is quite aligned into the direction of magnetic applied external magnetic field. So only those domains will grow which are favorably oriented along the applied external magnetic field. So when you apply the magnetic field, so this domain will grow. So here if you see, this magnetic domain's growth take place when H is equal to non-zero, H is greater than 0. And remember, still up to this magnetic field, if you remove the magnetic field, this process is reversible boundary displacement. This means boundary is displacing, but this process is reversible. Means if you remove the magnetic field, again they may regain the original position in absence of external magnetic field. Means net magnetization may become 0. Okay. But if you further increase the magnetic field intensity, applied magnetic field, then this again this favorably oriented domains will grow. If you further increase, then up to a certain value of external magnetic field, the irreversible boundary displacement will happen. It means when you remove the magnetic field, these domains will not regain their original position. Okay, so that is this position. So here this two domains have been removed. Means this bigger domain has basically taken eaten up all these two domains. Means the growth of the domain happens, this favorable growth of the volume of the favorably oriented domains occurs in the expense of the non-favorable domains. So if you see this non-favorable domains expenses, this is the decreases, and this favorable domains growth. And if you further increase the magnetic field, then this domain growth take place. Means only all the all the domain disappears which are not favorable. Only favorable domains, that is growth take place. Okay. But if you see the direction of this magnetization of this domain, that is still not in the direction of magnetic field, which is along this direction. Now if you further increase the magnetic field, then this domain magnetization will rotate. Okay, so that is this particular field. So that process is known as the magnetization rotation. And after the magnetization rotation, if you further increase the magnetic field, when all the domains and dipole get aligned into the direction of magnetic field, so that saturation means there is no change in the magnetization, so you will get a straight line with 0 slope. Remember, straight line with 0 slope. So that is known as the saturation of magnetization. So that will not affect this external magnetic field will not affect the loop, will not affect the curve. Sorry. Okay. So this is known as the saturation magnetization. So this is known as saturation magnetization. So there are, you see, I can distinguish this M versus H curve in two regions. So one is the basically three region: reversible boundary displacement region, irreversible boundary displacement region, and the magnetization rotation. Okay. In this condition, what is happening in reversible bound in case of weak magnetic field, let us say up to this position, the growth of favorably oriented domains occurs in the expense of the non-favorable domains. So those who are interested in deep to understand how the growth and domains take place, they can visit some solid state physics, okay, books like Charles Kittel and other books are there. So one can visit and have a deep understanding on those. Before that, when I have explained this MH curve, I must have explained the type of ferromagnetic material. So there are basically two type of ferromagnetic materials are there, that is isotropic material and anisotropic materials. And isotropic materials are those materials in which magnetization does not depend upon the directions, whether direction of the applied magnetic field. Whether you apply magnetic field in any direction of that particular material, the magnetization will be like similar, quite similar. So that is known as the isotropic material. But there are some certain kind of materials are there. So their magnetization depend upon the angle of applied magnetic field. Means in what angle you are applying the magnetic field. Means angle with respect to their crystallographic directions. Here that is angle means I am referring to the crystallographic directions. I am not going into the details of the crystallographic directions, because you might have not learned in your 10+2 classes or till now. Maybe in higher class you will learn the solid state physics, then you will understand what is the crystallographic direction. So simply you understood that in case of isotropic material, whether you apply magnetic field in any direction, in any crystallographic direction, the magnetization will be quite similar. Okay, means uniform. But in case of anisotropic material, if you apply the magnetic field in different crystal directions, so that magnetization will be different. But it means after applying a magnetic field, one have to overcome to the anisotropic energy. Then growth of the domains will take place. That is happens only in case of anisotropic material. Okay, but I am not going in detail. Maybe I will show in hysteresis loop also. So this is the process of magnetization. If you now if you remove the magnetic field, okay. Now if you remove the magnetic field, if you try to remove the magnetic field and reach up to the zero magnetic field, then the magnetization does not repeat its history. Okay, magnetization, because here it is irreversible process. So this all the domain will not regain their original position, but rather than the material will have some magnetization even in absence of magnetic field. Even when H becomes equal to 0, you have some magnetization. Okay. So this particular value of magnetization is known as the remanent magnetization. Remanent magnetization. When H equal to 0, then you have some magnetization, that is known as the remanent magnetization. And here that is was known as the saturation magnetization, as I discussed. Okay. Now suppose you want to demagnetize the material. Here, because material is not demagnetized, means still you have some magnetizations, means domains or dipoles are still aligned in the direction of original direction of the magnetic field, and you want to demagnetize the material, then again you have to increase the external applied magnetic field in negative direction. If you increase the magnetic field in negative direction till this magnetization that becomes equal to 0, and that particular value of magnetic field, that is known as the intrinsic coercivity. Remember, I am not calling here coercivity, I am calling intrinsic coercivity, that is I have written HCI, that is intrinsic coercivity, or that is known as the intrinsic coercive force. This distance, that is known as the intrinsic coercive force. And here the material is now m becomes equal to 0, means m equal to 0 at H. When H becomes HCI, then m becomes equal to 0. Okay. And again, if you further increase the magnetic field in negative direction, then again all the dipoles, when they were aligned in this direction, so they will again try to align in the direction of magnetic field. So because magnetic field is in this direction, so they will again align and they will saturate. And now if you again increase the magnetic field, so they will repeat the history. So that is why this curve is known as the MH curve, is also known as the hysteresis curve. Okay. So this is the MH curve. Now let us try to understand so this part, this MH curve I have explained from this explanation. That is, if anybody is interested, they can go to this book from Introduction to the Solid State Physics, Charles Kittel. Okay. And the previous page, that first page I have explained. So this part, that basics of magnetism that I have explained, I have covered with the Introduction to Electrodynamics by David J. Griffith. Now if you go to the next page and if you try to understand try to plot the curve between external applied magnetic field and B vector, as I discussed here earlier, that graph may be plotted between B and H, and graph may be plotted between M and H. So I have in previous page I have discussed the graph between MH, so that is known as the MH curve. If you plot the graph between B and H, then this hysteresis curve is quite different. This B and H curve is quite different from the magnetization curve. Okay. Maybe you might have not learned in your 10+2 classes. Maybe your teacher have told, or maybe discussed that the both curve are same, they are not different. But how I will explain how they are quite different. So these things you are going to learn in new physics, new things in my lecture. Okay. So if you write the formula for the magnetization, so the magnetization was equal to B upon mu 0 minus H vector, or you write B is equal to mu 0 H plus M, so that is in SI unit, if you write in CGS unit, that is B vector is equal to H plus 4 pi m vector. Okay. So when, let us say, when magnetic field is equal to 0, we have not applied magnetic field. So this curve, that is quite similar to the magnetization curve, as I have discussed in earlier lectures. So this growth of domains and this irreversible reversible boundary displacement, and this magnetization rotation, this happens quite similar to the MH curve in case of BH curve also. Okay. In case of BH curve, remember this point. In case of BH curve and MH curve, this curve, this reversible boundary displacement, irreversible boundary displacement, magnetization rotation, this growth of favorably oriented domains, this phenomena is quite exactly similar in case of BH curve and MH curve. But the difference in case of BH curve and MH curve comes at the point of saturation. In case of MH curve, we have seen that there is a saturation happens, means you, after a particular external magnetic field, if you further increase the magnetic field, then M saturates and you get a straight line there is with zero slope. But in case of BH curve, in case of BH curve, if you increase the magnetic field after some certain value, okay, when the dipoles, when magnetization gets saturated, but here B will be not saturated. Okay, so this will give a slope with a linear region. Remember, that is the difference. There it was slope was straight line and with zero slope. Here you get some slope and linear curve. That is the difference. Okay. And now if you remove the magnetic field, another difference is that now if you remove the magnetic field in the case of BH curve, okay. So if let us say if you put H is equal to 0 after saturation magnetization, if you put H is equal to 0, that means this point at the origin, then from this formula if you get, from there you get M is equal to Mr. So let us, from this formula, when H is equal to 0, let's say we have some remnant magnetization. In the case of magnetization current, I have called this remnant magnetization Mr. So let us put that, because basically dipoles are getting magnetized. So that is why I am keeping this Mr. Let us say we have remnant magnetization and corresponding, if H equal to 0 from this formula, so this B tends to Br, and then obviously this so M tends to Mr, and so B will tends to Br. So we can write Mr equal to Br upon mu 0. That means this Mr does not becomes equal to 0. Remember, that means Mr does not becomes equal to 0 at when H is equal to 0. So this particular value, where this magnetic field vector B, we have some magnetic field vector B when H equal to 0. So this is known as the retentivity. Remember, this is known as the retentivity of the BH curve. Now, in order to achieve the 0 retentivity, this, in order to achieve the B should be equal to 0, okay, then again we have to reverse the applied magnetic field. If you reverse the applied magnetic field, let us say up to a HC value, that is minus SC. If H is equal to minus SC, yeah, H is equal to HC, okay, when this B becomes equal to 0, then if you see, if you substitute this value, when H becomes equal to HC, okay, and this B becomes equal to 0, H becomes equal to HC and B becomes equal to 0 here at this point, okay, at this point, then what you get? You get some magnetization M is equal to minus SC, and that is not 0. So in several books and several maybe textbooks, you might have learned that. So this is known as the this textbook, maybe they have called as a coercivity. Okay, so obviously this is known as the coercivity. So this is now, and this the value of magnetic field, that is known as the coercive force, means we have applied external force to gain the magnetic field vector B is equal to 0. So that is known as the coercive field. Remember, I am not saying to gain the magnetization equal to 0, because here we have some net magnetization. Here magnetization does not becomes equal to 0. Here B becomes equal to 0. Even at B is equal to 0, at when you applied magnetic field is equal to minus Hc, then you get some magnetization that is equal to minus Hc. It means still this magnetization is not equal to 0. So this force that is known as the coercive force, and this particular field, when your B vector becomes equal to 0, then that field is that is known as the coercivity of the material. Okay. In order to, let us say, achieve the magnetization should be also equal to 0. Here if you have three quantities, this B, M and H. So again you have to apply the magnetic field. Means you have to increase the magnetic field, as I have did in case of MH curve. If you see, that is why in case of MH curve I have defined intrinsic coercivity. Remember, this is I have defined intrinsic coercivity, not coercivity. So this intrinsic coercivity is the property of that particular material at which magnetization become equal to 0. Here this magnetization is becoming equal to 0. I am plotting graph between M and H. So that is why I am calling intrinsic coercivity. But in the case of BH curve, I am not plotting graph between M and H. I am plotting graph between B and H. So this B contains basically two terms, that is H and M. When your H becomes equal to 0, okay, when your H becomes equal to 0, then obviously you have some remnant magnetization, that what we have observed in case of MH curve. But here what we are calling, that we have some remnant B, that is retentivity of the material, and in order to obtain this B should be equal to 0, we have to again increase the magnetic field in negative direction. So that required magnetic field, that is why I am calling, that is coercivity of the material. But still at this point, as I have seen by this mathematical formulation, that still we get some magnetization. So in order to again to completely demagnetize the material, we have to again increase the magnetic field in third quadrant. That is, this demagnetization will occur up to the, when we apply this external magnetic field, when the value of external magnetic field will be equal to the intrinsic coercivity of the material. When if H becomes equal to HCI, then M becomes equal to 0. Means at H is equal to minus HCI, this magnetization will become equal to 0 in BH curve. Okay. So this is valid, whatever I have taught, this is valid for the case of any material. Maybe I will introduce two type of material, that is soft magnets and hard magnet. Okay. So let us introduce, then I will explain. So there are two type of ferromagnets. The one is known as a soft magnet, another is known as a hard magnet. So here I have plotted a curve of a soft magnet and hard magnet. The basic difference between the soft magnet and hard magnet is their coercivity, this value, that is the coercivity value. Okay. In case of soft magnet, the coercivity of the soft magnet, that is very less than the BR value. Okay. In case of hard magnet, this H, the coercivity of this hard magnet, that is quite comparable or maybe greater than the BR value, that is the retentivity of the material. Okay. So that is known as the hard magnet, and if this is happening, that is known as the soft magnet. But here I have plotted this BH curve. In this BH curve, I have plotted both soft magnet and hard magnets, both are on the same axis, but the length scale is different. Okay. If you see the difference between hard magnet and soft magnet, the coercivity value, so I have denoted this HCS, that is for the coercivity of soft magnet, and this is coercivity of the hard magnet. So this difference, obviously that is very huge, that is of the order of 10 power 6. Okay, that is, this difference is of the order of 10 power 6. That means it will be not good to plot hysteresis loop of soft magnet and hard magnet on the same axis in the same curve. But if you mention the scale, if you write the scale, what is the scale on H axis and what is the scale on Y axis, then you can plot. If you plot that, then you will see that this curve will be very small in comparison to the hard magnet curve, hysteresis curve. Okay. So whatever I have learned, again I come back to these things. So this is the hard magnet and soft magnet. So if you come back to again this curve, so whatever I have explained, this difference between MH curve and BH curve, that is well valid for the hard magnet. Means there will be obviously difference between the BH curve and MH curve for the hard magnet. Okay, but one can have a quite similar, but this explanation is valid for the both magnets, soft magnet and hard magnet. Okay, but if you have a soft magnet, remember whatever explanation I have given with difference between the BH curve and MH curve, that is both well valid for the soft magnet and that is valid for the soft magnet and hard magnet both. But for the case of soft magnet, as I have explained, this coercivity, that is minus SC, that is much less than the MR या BR. Okay, that is remnant magnetization or retentivity of the material. Okay, and we, in this case, if this is happening, if you take the soft magnet, in that case the coercivity value is, that minus SC value is quite equal to the intrinsic coercivity value of that particular material. Means if you plot if you plot the MH curve and BH curve in the case of soft magnet, you will get a very less difference between HC and intrinsic coercivity. Then the graph may looks quite similar. That is for the case of only soft magnet. Remember how it may be, how it will come. If you see, if we have let us say I have explained this formula. So let us say when your B becomes equal to, when your H become equal to 0, or let us say H becomes equal to HC. So I have explained, because when H is equal to 0, so we have given the name MR and BR. So we have some remnant magnetization and retentivity, and this, let us say, some HC, some any value of HC, as we have seen in case of difference between MH curve and BH curve. Okay, so we can write formula MR equal to BR upon mu 0 minus SC. Okay, or we can write this BR is equal to mu 0 HC plus MR. So for the case of soft magnet, we know this MR is much greater than HC, or HC is much less than MR. It means HC can be neglected out of this formula. If we neglect the HC, then we can find out this BR is quite equal to the mu 0 MR. So that is why for the case of soft magnet, there may be no difference. There means one cannot observe the difference between BH curve and MH curve. But if you have a hard magnet, there will be obviously a big difference between the MH curve and BH curve. Don't confuse with these things. I hope you are learning something new things, and I believe that you have learned this MH curve and BH curve in your 10+2 classes, but you have not learned in detail what is the difference between them. And this explanation, whatever I have given, one can find out this explanation. In those who are interested in deep learning, they can go to this reference, that is this Journal of Magnetism and Magnetic Material, in this paper. Okay. Now, as I promised, that I will explain another thing, that is the isotropic and anisotropic material. In case of isotropic material, ferromagnet, as I have discussed, if you apply magnetic field in any direction of the in any crystallographic direction, you measure the magnetization, so you will get a same loop. So there will be no difference in the MH curve whether you apply magnetic field in any direction with respect to the crystallographic direction. I am not taking the name of crystallographic direction because you have not learned till. But if you have an anisotropic material, anisotropic material means those materials which have different crystallographic directions. Okay, if you apply external magnetic field in particular crystallographic direction, then magnetization will be different. Okay, so here I have shown a curve between of the MH curve of one anisotropic material, that is when magnetic field, external magnetic field applied parallel to the EG axis of magnetization direction, and when H is perpendicular to the EG axis of magnetization. Okay, so obviously in ferromagnetic material there will be some axis, some crystallographic direction along which magnetization will be very easy to magnetize material, and there will be some crystallographic direction along which magnetization will be hard. Okay, so that is why I have shown two different MH curve for same material. So one is perpendicular to the EG axis of magnetization, another is the parallel to the EG axis of magnetization. And this EG axis of magnetization can be found by just changing the crystallographic direction, and you apply the magnetic field. And then if the magnetization is easy, obviously you plot the curve, which then the case which have more magnetization and saturation magnetization, that is obviously EG axis, and the curve which have less this saturation magnetization and less this retentive remnant magnetization, that is the hard axis of magnetization. But remember, in both cases, the coercivity, this intrinsic coercivity, that should be equal, whether you are applying magnetic field along the EG axis or hard axis or any crystallographic direction, the coercivity will be same. So this is the case of n-isotropic ferromagnetic material. So in this lecture, I have explained very basics of the ferromagnetic material, okay, and then I have covered the BH curve, and this BH curve and MH curve are known as the hysteresis loop because they remember their history, how they are going back, okay. And then I have explained the MH curve and BH curve separately for ferromagnetic material, and then clearly I tried to explain the difference between BH curve and MH curve. I may have missed some part, maybe. If you feel anything I am missing, please feel free to write me. I hope you have learned something new from this lecture. Thanking you very much for listening. Please, if you have any doubt, comment, suggestion, please feel free to write on my YouTube. I will try to reply your answer, question and give answer. Thanking you very much for listening. Thanks a lot.